So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here outside my kuti in Sri Lanka, and thought to record a short Ovāda for the internet. So I thought I could start with just a little meditation, so you can lean forward a little bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, wishing may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side and our left hand side, wishing may all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, and in front. May all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front and behind, in all 4 directions. May all beings in all 4 directions be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings in all 4 directions be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, and above. May all beings in all 4 directions and above be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, above, below, all around in every direction, everywhere. May all beings all around in every direction, everywhere, be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And before we finish meditating, we can do a short contemplation on impermanence, reflecting on how all things that arise are subject to ceasing. So they're not mine, they don't belong to me. Okay, and can open our eyes. And do a short Ovāda for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, tatiyampi dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, tatiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, tatiyampi dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, tatiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. So, hope that everybody is having a great day wherever it might be. And yeah, I'm just here at the solitary kuti. I've been here for about a month, I think a month or a bit more, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. And so in Buddhism, there's a lot of emphasis on what they call anicca. Anicca, nicca in Pali, as far as my understanding, means stable. Like a chair is very stable. A chair with 4 legs. If one sits on it, it's quite stable. And anicca means unstable. So, if you took away one of the chair's legs or 2, then one might still be able to sit on the chair, but it would be something that would be unstable. If you're rocky, one could fall down and hurt oneself. And this kind of way of looking at things as anicca is said to be the highest way that one can make merit. Basically, even more than if one spreads metta, more than if one serves the entire community headed by the Buddha, even if more than one dedicates a dwelling to the Sangha. It's the most meritorious thing that one can do, basically, to contemplate impermanence, to contemplate how all things that arise are subject to ceasing. This contemplation of impermanence as well, if a person attains stream entry in the text, the classic realization that they're given is I think whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. And so this kind of emphasis on impermanence is very strong in the Buddhist teachings. And it's an interesting thing because, remember, before encountering Buddhism, at least for myself, one would want to find something that was permanent. Kind of, the goals of economics or the goals of science are basically to try to keep people happy, keep people finding this kind of source of pleasure that won't stop. And so remember, kind of in economics, it was something that everybody knew. Kind of when I was in school, I was took business, and they would teach us, like how the goal of economics is to, people have these scarce resources. There's only limited numbers of things. There's limited numbers of trees, limited numbers of plants, limited numbers of, fruits or whatever it might be, and cows. You can only have so many burgers. You can only have so many houses. You can only have so many, vegan salads. But people's desires for these things are unlimited. People's desires for these things, maybe not just these things in specific, but people's desires are unlimited, but resources are limited. And so the goal of economics is to try to, at least from what I remember, it's been a while, one of the goals of economics is to try to find ways to meet people's desires using these scarce resources, these limited resources. And remember, far back, you'd hear these things about, at least mythologically, say like Taoism, my understanding as well, is kind of like this search for eternal life. Or, science as well, together with economics, is kind of not necessarily the search for eternal life, but the search to find this permanent thing, this thing that's stable, not necessarily in terms of like that's the main goal, but, finding like more convenient ways to do things, ways that will make human life easier, make human life more manageable. And of course, there may be fields of science, like ones directed towards aging, that try to find eternal life or these kind of things. I don't know. I haven't been reading the literature much recently. But all of these things are based on trying to find external sources of happiness that one can rely on, that one can settle on, and kind of find a way to manage the external world so that it's stable, so that it's safe, like a chair. And kind of one can sit down on it, the four legs will be there, and one won't wobble, one won't fall off. Remember just a few days ago, I heard some very sad news actually from somebody. There was a person, he was 21, and I think he just finished his final exam in university, and he was going to medical school, and he went for a walk with his parents in Newfoundland. I think he's in Newfoundland or Labrador, one of the eastern Canada. And he was running after them, and he slipped and fell into the water. And at first they thought it was all funny, and kind of guessed there was a small cliff, and this is kind of bordering the ocean. But then he couldn't grab onto anything not long after that, and the tide swept him out to the ocean, and so haven't been able to find him. And so these things in Buddhism, that this is one of the reasons that the Buddha emphasizes these things, is because there's things that are external to us, things like a person's house, things like a person's car, things like a person's children or family members, things like a person's health, things like a person's physical appearance that seem stable, that seem like one can sit down on them and rest on them, and they won't topple, they won't wobble, or they shouldn't wobble, or there's a way to shore up the legs of the chair so that it won't wobble. If we could just get maybe 5 or 6 legs on the chair, then if one broke, then we would still be supported. And to a certain extent, conditions can be manipulated this way. You can put 6 legs on the chair. But the law, I guess you'd say, of impermanence, that everything is anicca, is that eventually these chair legs will become subject to breaking. And not only that, there are these unusual circumstances that one thinks should never happen to them, or it's just too improbable, where maybe all 6 legs on the chair break at once and one falls down. So it's because of this that these things that are impermanent cause people to suffer, because there's this gap between the reality of what it is that gives happiness and pleasure and the stability of how much one can rely on these external sources of happiness and pleasure, and one's beliefs about them, the weight that one puts on them, the amount of, I guess weight is the best word, that one settles on them. I remember when I was young, I used to like to sometimes climb trees, and I had this theory that if one stayed like close to the branch, like the branch might be here on the tree, and if one set one's weight close to the base of the branch, then the branch wouldn't crash, the branch wouldn't snap, and one would, likely not. There was always the possibility, but one would be safe. And I remember I would use this theory, and I climbed up this tree that had branches that were too flimsy. And I got to a certain height, and the branch snapped. And I fell off the tree and kind of got cut on my stomach and these various kind of things. And remember having this cut on my stomach, it kind of, it was interesting because my stomach got cut, and then I'd never been cut there before. And as it was healing, like almost everything that I did felt painful. Kind of breathe in and out felt painful. Sitting down felt painful. Maybe standing up felt painful. I didn't realize how much I used these muscles in my stomach. And it's a similar way when one rests on these external things, believing them to be permanent, thinking that they're stable, thinking that they're a source of happiness that one can rely on. Because when one sits down on them, when one rests on them, they may seem stable for a while. They may even seem so stable for a long period of time that one forgets that they're subject to change. But when they crash, when they break, when we lose them, that's when it becomes a source of pain for us. That's where this kind of condition of dukkha is. And it can shake one's view of the world, of how the world should be, of how one's life should be, so that it's like getting this cut on the stomach. One breathes in and out, it feels painful. When one stands, it feels painful. When one sits, it feels painful. Losing a family member can be like this. Losing a spouse can be like this. Losing a job can be like this. Losing one's physical appearance can be like this. Losing one's ability to, say, like run or walk or do things that one used to be able to do is like this. Wherever one rests one's weight, wherever one looks for stability in pleasure and external things, when it changes, this is what it gives, is this kind of suffering. So this is something that can seem really obvious when one says it, but it's when the Buddha gives this meditation, this perception, this cultivation of the perception of impermanence to counter one's habitual tendencies to rest on things that are unstable. And what it does is it turns one's mind to search for things that are more stable than things outside, than things that are impermanent, that are suffering, to try to find something that doesn't change, to try to find something that's stable. So the Buddha's quest starts with these kind of things that were not starts necessarily, but cultivation of this perception of impermanence leads to a search. This is one of the things that the Buddha says. If one doesn't have the Buddha's teachings, then one, this is a paraphrase of that. If one suffers, it either leads to bewilderment, or a search. One has rested all one's weight on something and it's fallen away. Either one becomes bewildered and beats one's breast and cries and can't see any way out of that. In which case, it can be very terrible suffering. Or this suffering can lead to a search. This kind of thing that I put my weight on is impermanent. It's suffering. What else, if I put my weight on it, will be impermanent and suffering? And surely there's an end to this whole mass of suffering. Now, this search is the search that leads people on a quest that leads them to encounter the Buddha's teachings. And the Buddha's teachings are something that lead onwards. They lead onwards not from the search for one external thing to it falling apart to another external thing. I remember when I was young, we used to play these kind of video games, and sometimes there'd be ones where you had to hop across these stones. And each stone that one hopped onto, there was only a certain amount of time you could stay there, and you'd have to jump. Other than the stone would fall into the lava, maybe, or it may have been a theme in some video games. And one search for external things is like this. One hops onto one, it becomes unstable. One hops onto another, hops onto another. So the search that the Buddha leads one on, when one starts to follow his path, it goes in a different direction from going to external things to try to find more and more stable sources of happiness that don't depend on external things. This is why one learns to protect one's sila, one's morality. One learns to find happiness from that. One learns to cultivate generosity, giving away. One learns to find happiness from that. And one learns to practice meditation to try to find sources of happiness that are more and more independent, less and less dependent on external things. And so this kind of search is something that one can know for oneself. When one finds these internal sources of happiness, one becomes less swayed by the anicca nature of the world outside. One becomes less swayed when the chair is shaking if one isn't sitting on the chair with one's full weight. One becomes less afraid of the branch breaking when one isn't grabbing onto the branch with one's full weight. One has one's hand on something else. Or maybe one is sitting on a shaky chair, one has grabbed onto the table. And this is what it can be like when one starts to grab onto the Buddha's teachings, when one is learning to take one's mind away, trying to train one's mind away from the external world. And of course, the end goal of the Buddha's teachings is not to have to rely on external things at all. It's to find something totally permanent. So the Buddha gives these different similes for that, kind of the simile of the island, and kind of crosses from the dangerous shore and stands on high ground, kind of safe, more or less. So kind of one is kind of crossing this dangerous river, or going along, and then, he gives a simile of a shipwrecked sailor, kind of a person who could drown, and finally he makes his way to an island and stands there safely. So this is the potential, because although in the Buddha's teachings there's these things that are anicca, that are unstable, there's also something that's stable. There's also something that doesn't change. So he gives his teaching, there's the unborn, the unformed, the uncreated, the unoriginated. If there wasn't, then there wouldn't be an escape from the born, the formed, the created, and the originated. But because there is the unborn, there's an escape. And it's this escape that the mind can incline to when one cultivates this perception of impermanence. That all these things that are external are not mine. They're subject to changing. Because when they do change, if one cultivates the mind in this way, if one searches for a stable refuge, it's like a person who may have some of their weight on the chair, but is grabbed onto the table. Or it's like a person who may be climbing the tree, but has grabbed onto other branches other than the flimsy ones. So that when these things break, one still has something to hold on to. Or it's like a person who, although they're in the river, has, although they're crossing this kind of, been shipwrecked, crossing and trying to find a stable place, they've finally set their foot touches the ground. They may still be in the water, but their foot has touched the ground. And so these are the ways that one can cultivate one's mind when one's practicing. One's practicing to try to go forward, to use the Buddha's teachings as a refuge, to use the Buddha's teachings as something stable, to use the Buddha's teachings as something that one can look to leading onwards, rather than looking to external things leading onwards, hopping from stone to stone. One looks to things more and more and more stable that one can find inside, until the time that one can actually stand on dry ground, till one has one's feet firmly planted. When one can stand on the island, when one has crossed the flood, then one has nothing to worry. About at all. So this is the potential of the Buddha's teachings. But it can lead there when one cultivates this perception of impermanence, so that the mind turns away from the external world and leads onwards in the Buddha's teachings to safer and safer places, until one can find this ultimate safety. Okay, so leave that for reflection. And hope that everybody has a great day wherever it might be, and wishing all the blessings of Dhamma practice.